I'm an assistant professor in law at Leicester Law School. I research end-of-life practices, primarily assisted dying. I'm looking at regulation and policy, but I'm also working with interdisciplinary teams to understand the link between clinical practice and end-of-life. Interestingly, with some archaeologists and historians recently looking at the past to see how we can open up conversations around end of life and what are the needs of hospices lately in terms of feedback gathering. So yeah, not just law, fortunately. So, but I'm here today to share findings from a recent paper I co-authored with one of my colleagues on the right to life and its role in the assisted dying debate in line with the theme of the Congress. Yeah, there's increased regulation globally, meaning that we have various models, and we've heard already a lot about that. But also it means that decriminalization and regulation is the result of different strategies, different strategies. And what do I mean by that? I have some examples on the next slide, and again, we've heard a lot about judgments and the parliamentary process and committees and the involvement of the citizens, examples from the US. I could point to citizens' initiatives, New Zealand with the referendum, so lots of strategies. So while I was thinking about specifically court judgments, for instance, Canada, I was thinking about the role of human rights in the debate, and I was thinking that human rights have different roles. And while assisted dying has mostly been associated, and I'm going to skip to this one, mostly been associated with the right to private life or dignity or whatever choice or whatever each jurisdiction calls it. I was thinking about the right to life and its role in the debate, and I'll go back. I'm based in England, and that's my starting point, but I was also looking at cases from the European Court of Human Rights. I think this is very known to a lot of you. We see the decriminalization in Section 1 of the 1961 Act in England and Wales, Northern Ireland, and we see cases and we see bills in Parliament, but mostly focusing on the right to private life. Lately, however, we see a focus on the right to life, I think inspired by what has happened in Canada and other places, but successfully in Canada. So I'm not going to go through that, but I do think that human rights are quite key in this debate. I think the most significant changes that have happened in England and Wales, and there are many, have happened as a result of judicial challenges and the use of rights. The case of Preety, the case of Purdy, but I'm not going to go through that. And I'm going to go quickly into the main thing I want to say today. So we identified with my co-author 4 different uses of the right to life. Is there a right to die, first of all, through the provision of the right to life? It has first been used by Preety in the House of Lords, as it then was, and then also argued at Strasbourg. They said no, sanctity of life, very narrow provision, a very specific language used. They said no, there's no right to self-determination, no right to die under right to life. A recent case in England, Conway in 2018, worryingly introduced the sanctity of life as one of the justifications for the prohibition, alongside the protection for vulnerable people and the relationship between the doctor and the patient. So now we have the sanctity of life as one of the justifications for the prohibition. So it's quite worrying. I think the rationale is quite simplistic. I think the right to life means much more than sanctity of life, and we see it in conventions across the world. It means dignity, existence, integrity, or autonomy. But I don't think we will see this argument coming back to courts. But I think there is more to the right to life. Then again, people think about the right to life and think about this argument around prohibition. And you may, if you're a lawyer, you may think that the right to life means that you need to prohibit the intentional deprivation of life, and it's an intentional deprivation of life. My co-author and I had particular issues with this interpretation. So what about all the places with, well, in the member states of the Council of Europe that have this legislation in place? I'm pretty sure they're not in breach of their state obligations under Article 2. And then we started thinking about this distinction between voluntary assisted, voluntary active euthanasia and assisted suicide. Assisted suicide, we all know, is the patient that takes the last step. But voluntary assisted is the doctor, is that deprivation of life? I know it's a very legal argument, but then we were thinking maybe the criminal law provides the answer to that. Yeah, maybe the criminal law means that we can have regulated deprivations, and maybe that's okay, because Strasbourg usually says flexibility in terms of the end of life. And you can see our paper will be published very soon. But I don't think Article 2 prohibits. Yeah? So into the more interesting stuff and the positive obligations under the right to life. And we've identified 2 positive obligations. So does the right to life protect? I think that's very easy to answer, and the answer is safely and quickly, yes, Article 2 protects. And we have cases. We have the case of Haas in Switzerland that is very clear that the Article 2 protects. Yeah? In short, the Swiss law requires a process to be followed. In that context, it was a prescription processes in relation to the prescription of medication. But then we have another case recently from Belgium, Mortier, the case of Mortier, also confirmed that the right to life protects. Yeah, the right to life protects. And there was actually a procedural violation of Article 2 there because of the length of criminal procedure and the lack of independence of the Commission. So what do we want to communicate through these is that non-permissive jurisdictions should be encouraged by Strasbourg jurisprudence. What do I mean by encourage? That it's safe to do it, and if it's not safe, maybe they will be held accountable, maybe. And for permissive jurisdictions, 1 minute to go, you need to ensure that this is safe. Even after the law is introduced, it needs to be saved, like Belgium. Yeah. The last use of the right to life, I'm okay. Again, this is inspired very much from what was argued in Canada, but we've also seen it in cases in England, the case of Omid and Newby, often forgotten very much from the debate around assisted dying, saying that the lack of a regulatory framework means that some people die earlier than planned. And there is evidence in the UK and elsewhere that this is happening. There is evidence that this is happening, people taking their lives earlier than planned. So can we go as far as to say that introducing legislation around assisted dying may actually extend the life for some people? And can we use the right to life to push some jurisdictions to introduce a framework around assisted dying? Yeah, I had 8 minutes. I'm very happy to, any questions you have over lunch. Thank you.